Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting for City Council on September 7th, 2021. Ms. Brick, will you please call roll?
Councilman Delagarza.
I'm present.
Mayor Tim Solis. Here. Councilwoman Scott. Councilman Young.
Here.
Councilman Logan.
Here.
And Faulkner.
Here. If y'all would please rise and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing as we honor a moment of silence to get our hearts and minds correct to the city business. Thank you. Again, welcome to the September 7th meeting. Right before we swear in Mr. Crocker, just to let you know, we're going to move item E2 to C4. There will be a public hearing with it, so just to let y'all know that. Okay.
Crocker, you please step up. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your name,
I, Dwayne Crocker,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties of office council member District 3
the duties of the office council member District 3
for the city of Victoria
for the city of Victoria
and of the state of Texas,
and of the state of Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws of the United States
the Constitution and laws of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I just needed to listen.
Congratulations.
You're welcome to take your seat.
All right, we're going to start with communications, so announcements and reminders. We have Keep Victoria Beautiful Business.
Yes, Keep
Award.
Victoria Beautiful Businessification Award. I do want to ask Christy Euchre to come up and make that presentation.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. We're very excited to be here again in September. And before we do that, I would also like to remind you, we have a cleanup, September 25th, citywide cleanup, fall sweep. And I would invite all of you to have a team. We're cleaning up all spots, different areas in Victoria, not just Loop. We're going to expand and make it a big deal so you can encourage people to sign up on our website. I'm going to introduce Shannon Longoria, our Keep Victoria Beautiful chair, to announce our winner.
Thank you, Christy. Good afternoon, Mayor, Bot Knight, and the council members. As Christy said, I'm the chairwoman of Keep Victoria Beautiful. I want to take a few moments to thank you all for making beautification a priority in Victoria. We believe partnership between the city and its residents helps us all to create and keep a culture that, when pushed to the limits, like we've seen last year, join together to rebuild, restore, so we can thrive together. One way we can all work together to achieve this is to volunteer at the event like we announced just a few minutes ago. On September 25th, you can sign up at keepvictoriabeautiful.org. Every little bit makes a difference, so we want to encourage everyone to be a part. Because every member of the community and business contributes to the overall success, we want to acknowledge every effort members of our community are making to keep Victoria beautiful. So today, the Keep Victoria Beautiful Board and I would like to formally announce and present our September Keep Victoria Beautiful Beautification Award Appliance Pro of Victoria. Appliance Pro is a local, family-owned appliance sales, service, and repair business established in Victoria, Texas in March 2000 by Todd and Denny Evans. Our beautification committee received nomination after looking at the area, noticed the building front is attractive and inviting with landscaping that's healthy and well-maintained. The parking area is litter-free, and they have demonstrated their belief in the American dream and Texas pride with the American flag and Texas flag posted on the property. They score 100% in every category. We express appreciation for Appliance Pro's commitment to a level of excellence that elevates the city of Victoria's community appearance. So please join me in congratulating Appliance Pro as a recipient of the September Keep Victoria Beautiful Beautification Award.
Okay, already got it? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Public and employee recognitions. We have a proclamation for Hunger Action Month.
Whereas hunger and poverty are issues of vital concern in Texas, where 14% of people face hunger and 1 in every 4 children do not know where their next meal will come from. Whereas the City of Victoria is committed to taking steps to combat hunger in every part of our community, whereas City of Victoria is committed to working with the Food Bank of the Golden Crescent in educating people about the role and importance of food banks in addressing hunger, whereas more than 30,000 families in the Golden Crescent region rely on food provided by the Food Bank of the Golden Crescent each month, whereas the coronavirus pandemic has had devastating health and economic impact across the country, and the Food Bank of the Golden Crescent has distributed more than 6 million pounds of food to people in 11 counties this year, whereas the month of September has been designated as Hunger Action Month in order to bring attention to food insecurity in our communities and to engage the public in action, including volunteer shifts, social media shares, and donations, whereas food banks across the country, including the Food Bank of the Golden Crescent, continue to work tirelessly throughout the month of September to bring awareness and help end hunger in their local community. Now, therefore, I, Jeff Balknight, Mayor of the City of Victoria, do hereby call this observance to the attention of our citizens to proclaim September 2021 as Hunger Action Month.
First of all, on behalf of my staff, I want to thank City for our support and the continued partnership. We are seeing outrageous numbers. We are on target to do 9 to 10 million pounds of food distributed this year. When I started in 2013, we distributed less than 3 million pounds. Hard got us on the road, and the pandemic has kept us busy. So your support is greatly appreciated, and Hunger Action Month gives us that time to build awareness and let you know what we're doing. So anytime you want to take a tour, come on by and see us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for what y'all do. Golden Crescent Regional Planning Commission Annual Awards.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Welcome, Councilmember Crocker. Last week, a few of us had an opportunity to attend the annual banquet for the Regional Planning Commission. There were a few awards that were handed out. A couple of them related to city individuals, and so I'd like to simply realize what they were. The first is Regional Advisory Committee Leadership Award. This award is meant to recognize a member of an advisory committee who has displayed exemplary commitment and dedication to the purpose and mission of their committee and the Regional Planning Commission. The recipient of the award was Darryl Lesak for dedicating 20-plus years as a member and leader of the Regional Environmental Advisory Committee. His contributions to the committee have improved the Environmental Resources Program and will continue to have a positive impact on the Golden Crescent region for years to come. And so we thank Mr. Lesak for his service. Lastly, they also handed out a Sam D. Steele President Award. This award is to a person who, in his or her eyes, contributed most towards the advancement of Golden Crescent region. This award was named for Judge Sam Steele, a longtime supporter and member of the Board of Directors for the Planning Commission, where he served 4 terms as president. Judge Steele served as Jackson County Judge for 16 years and also served as the Executive Director of the Texas Association of Counties. This honor was presented to Mayor Raleigh McCoy for his efforts fiscal year 21 to keep the public safe, healthy, and informed in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, and for efforts to expand regional cooperation and collaboration in the Golden Crescent region. And so I had the honor of presenting that award today. Last week, and she was very grateful for the recognition was given to Raleigh. And so obviously we congratulate him and his family for his service.
May I say something? Is my mic on?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to thank the city for hosting the 54th Annual General Assembly for the Golden Crescent Regional Planning Commission. On behalf, as the president, I would like to say thank you for everybody that participated and did their work, or hard work, for the success of the General Assembly. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Items, Council, if there's no other recognitions?
I'd like to pull D8.
Yes, ma'am. Got it. Anybody else? Crocker?
I thought you had a 10-minute speech prepared.
It's 20 minutes. Okay, well, with that, close items from council and go to citizens communication. Mr. Underraw?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mike. I live at 2204 East North Street, Lot 28. There's a lot of trailer houses that need to be condemned, and specifically 10, 16, 29, and 32. Trailer number 10 is on the list to be the Building Standards Commission on October the 15th, and the trailer park owner, he isn't taking care of his trailer park like he's supposed to. And some of the people, they've just moved out, you know, and no one's there. There's an open door to 4 of them. People can just come out, in and out, and it's known for a place where sketchy and shady people come. And I would at least like to get the doors secured to them. On May the 23rd, so far as it did condemn, I would like to thank Developmental Services for helping code enforcement and the city manager's office and the city and the mayor's office for helping, you know, get the right people for the right job. And this trailer 10, no one's lived there for 18 months, and I don't know if he's paying rent or not, but it would be silly to pay $285 a month for 18 months for a place you don't live at. And I wish someone could knock these buildings down and maybe get the beautification committee to come and document everything, send it to code enforcement, so we can get our building inspectors and people from code enforcement. This place has been known for problems and been known for it fell apart since the new owner took over. He's happened later, but thanks and I appreciate it. I apologize for going over 2 minutes last time. Thank you.
Thank you.
You did well. I'll send you my.
I
He asked me to prepare speaking form.
forgot to remind everyone, we do have a limit, and city council does not typically provide any feedback after comments. Mr. Alvarez. I'll get you a new face mask.
Thank you very much. I like this one, especially for you, Mayor. We all know that you're a diehard Aggie. Have master's degree, all kind of degrees from Maine. So, good evening, Council, Mayor, and Alvarez. Congratulations again, Mayor Mocknight, for your success there in the elections, and Mr. Crocker, welcome aboard. It's always council all smiling at you when you were taking the oath. There's the newbie. There's the newbie. Yeah, get ready. Do your homework before you got here. But anyway, gentlemen and ladies, I come to you tonight. Not often tonight in particular, because I'm a little concerned on a couple action items that are going to visit tonight. Action item E1 and E6. A little concerned about this arrangement of Tourism Advisory Board, its makeup, how it came about, how it was developed, which leads me to the bigger issue, because there was a subcommittee from that board that made up the hotel motel tax. And in past, I know that this council or council and mayor have always selected the members on the hotel motels. But getting back to item number 1, seeing the arrangement there of how these members pick the interests to represent, I have a slight issue with it. There's no one from the public per se. They're all representing, they may be citizens and they may be from Victoria, of the members you're going to appoint to this advisory committee. But, how about someone with public interest? I see no one, and it may not be required by law, but no one's a general citizen that would be appointed by this council to serve. And maybe this, but I couldn't see it because it seemed like every member appointed was an interest in that they're a citizen or taxpayer of Victoria. They may be. I brought that question as well. They may live elsewhere and work here and work at one of the hotels, let's say, and you're going to pick someone like that. And more importantly, that board will represent, some of those will represent the Hotel Motel Tax Board Committee. And reading the memorandum from E6, it seems like it's become a staff-driven process. Staff reviewed the applicants, the staff scored the applications, request funds, the staff recommended to this advisory committee, and it's just rubber stamped. I find that very unrepresentative of process we've had in the past. Maybe I've been in the past, but I think we are more transparent. Mayor, you had on the issue. I see no transparency in the process. Also, I want to object to the minute or less time period. I think it passed was 5 minutes. I think citizens should always be allowed to speak. Their minds be given the opportunity to do so with some time limit, but 3 minutes on. I don't like to put my mark, so in the end. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Alvarez. Ms. Ramos.
Evening, Council. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'd like to kind of piggyback off of Mr. Alvarez on E6 on the hot funds. I also have a problem with the committee. There is no Hispanic representation whatsoever. Okay, I may be wrong, maybe some are, maybe there is Hispanic, but I usually go by the surnames, and that could pretty well be, it'll throw me off sometimes. But if there's one, I'd like to know who is, because by looking at the list, I could know. So there are a lot of events out there that, Hispanics hold, and you need to understand some of these events. For example, the Millers, they're bringing a lot of out-of-towners. Never applied, or maybe they've wanted to, but for some reason, because of the fact that they see what we go through, and I'm here in Memorial Weekend Bash. That's one of the largest events held here in Victoria. We have largest number of heads and beds. But since day one, I've had so many problems trying to get the numbers for those beds and heads. Those head and beds. And the very first year that we applied, I wanted the city attorney because he helped me quite a bit. But it seems like the very first year we did well as far as the rewards or the award that we got. But from then on, it started getting less and less. And no understanding as to why. I've asked, what are we doing wrong? Instead of getting more, we're getting less and less. And I was appealing the award that we just received, but it's not about the money. It's the principle of the thing. You guys need to know that we've gone through hell and high water to hold the Memorial Weekend Bash. Okay, I've asked for information on the livestock show because when we were moved to the 2008 flood that caused a lot of damage at the park, we were moved to the community center in the back. No shade, nothing. They made us, the Parks and Recreation made us rent the whole area. I'm talking soccer field, the base field, the dome, the annex, and the arena. but we couldn't use any of it, only back. And we paid a lot of money, and so I questioned it, because I wanted to know, was livestock being treated the same way? Even though they did use facilities, we didn't. They wouldn't allow us. We couldn't have anything in the dome. If we wanted to have a dance at the same time as the event for the memorial, we come back, we were told no. These are things that you guys need to know. And I would like for you to get answers for me. Okay? I would like to hope we keep getting less and less. I asked Joel from the tourist whatever, and I asked him, was it points? He said, no, you didn't have any points. Okay, what's the deal? There are newcomers coming in that are getting almost twice as much as we are. Newcomers, out of towners that are coming in and getting our hunts and taking them out and spending their money elsewhere.
Will you just take the next 15, 20 seconds to come up, your comments?
Okay? But, I'm just asking for your help. Help us to figure out what is wrong. What are we doing wrong? Help us to get numbers. Okay? The numbers in the motels, there's got to be a way. I've tried everything, and nothing seems to work. So let's see what we can do together. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Rose. Ms. Edwards.
While she's coming up, would you either give us their full name or
Oh, I'm
ask
sorry.
their name?
Ms. Wilma M. Edwards.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll have to repeat my name again. But I'll tell you what, I'm 34 Street, Victory, Texas, and I'm here because, let me ask you something first. Have y'all ever heard of free clothes industry? Anybody? Okay. I'd like to give thanks to the staff that's been working with me to keep the program going. We do, I'll let the last one. We have been getting free clothes and items since 2012. Under the umbrella of the United States Boy Scout Grand Lodge, AF and AM of Texas. This is a non-profit organization. We have this by volunteers. Everything's been by volunteers. And we like the money that's given to our special people. Okay. I'd like to share some information. I think I heard some 2 hands go up well. We need help with the roof. We've been on that since 2012. We had some people come out and fix it and charge it, and we have some people come out and fix it free, and it's still nothing. We asked to see, we have y'all rules and regulations that we have to abide by. We know that. When there's a need in the neighborhood, there's a need in the city, the people need clothes, items, information that we give them, better them, so we need help. They're able to have that picked up. We have to pay a water bill, but there's some rules saying that we're not qualified for that. Okay, not able to have pick up trash. Now, there's a point I'd like everybody to remember. You can do it as a whole, you can individual, or you can ask somebody to help me. We need a building. This is something that we need a building. And we're asking anybody here knows how to get this done as soon as possible, because we will be asked to destroy the building. And that hurt me, and it hurt the people. And that's all I say. I just want you to make a word, but we need a building like yesterday. Thank you. Please help.
Ms. Edwards. Is there anyone else that has not filled out a card? And we aren't on Zoom anymore. So with that, we'll close citizens' communication and go on items with public hearings.
Item C1 is an ordinance increasing solid waste fees for hazardous household waste pickup and recycling.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Ms. Solis, I have to apologize again.
It wasn't that much of a news, so I'll let you do this.
All right, well, thank you. As we talked about, when we bid out the commercial contracts and chose our provider, as part of that, household hazardous waste and provider recycling is part of those programs that the current provider provides. And with the bids that came in, there was a slight increase. When I talked during our budget meetings, we were actually looking at a 20% increase. And so after doing some talking with Gilbert and going back and checking numbers again, Gilbert, I did, and so you know they're right. What we came out with is a 10-cent increase on the curbside recycling rate. That's per home per month. So our rate will go from $2.92 to $3.02, and then a 5-cent increase from 65 to 70 cents on the household hazardous waste. And remember, that's an important program because it keeps over 50 tons of hazardous waste out of our landfill on an annual basis. Never have we been below 50. So you're looking at a total increase of about 15 cents per home per month, and the effective date would be October 1st if approved tonight. And I'll answer your questions.
Thank you for rewriting numbers, for having done.
Gilbert's
Mr. Ray, thank you. All right, no questions from Mr. Lesak. Then I will open up a public hearing on item C1. Anybody wishing to address the rate increase, may come forward. Seeing no one, we'll close item C1 and entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve C1.
Second.
Thank you. A motion and a second. Any further discussion about it? Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item C2.
Item C2 is the budget public hearing.
So this is just a public hearing. At this time, I'll open a public hearing on the budget. Anybody wishing to speak on the budget may step forward. Seeing no one, close the public hearing and go to item C3.
Item C3 is a public hearing on the 2020-2022 City of Victoria tax rate.
At this time, we'll open the public hearing on the tax rate. Anybody wishing to speak on item C3, please step forward. Seeing no one, close the public hearing and move to item C4, which you'll find as E2 on your agenda.
Item C4 is a resolution supporting the Odom Street Apartments LTD development of a workforce multi-family housing complex on Odom Street.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Mike Etienne, Assistant City Manager. So with this item today, the NRP Development Group is requesting council approval of a resolution of no objection, essentially stating that council does not object to their application to the state for the 4% housing tax credit program to finance construction of the Odom Street Apartments, which is located in Silver City. So a quick presentation. So the NRP Group is one of the largest builders in the United States. They are a full-service agency that handles development, construction, and property management. The NRP Group is very active in the state of Texas. You could see from the map where they are working. They are very active, particularly in San Antonio, where they've built numerous units. Overall, since they've been in Texas, they've built over 20,000 affordable units for a total development value of $2.5 billion. Yes, with a B. They have 450 employees in Texas, and they've won numerous awards. So the NRP Group today is proposing to build 324-unit apartment complex. It'll be affordable workforce housing, particularly for individuals working. That development will be in Silver City neighborhood. The development is called for now Odom Street Apartments, and it is located on 18 acres at 2303 Odom Street. You can see the map to the right of the screen, essentially at the corner of Callis and Odom Street. The total development cost for this project is $57 million. NRP intends to finance the project using the 4% tax credit program and private activity bonds, taxes and bonds issued by the Victoria Housing Finance Corporation. As you know, in June 25, 2021, the HFC passed an induced resolution to issue $32 million in taxes and bonds and serve as a partner. This project is essentially the same as the Janet Gardens. So really there's a difference in the structure of the process. The HFC issues the bonds and serve as general partners. Nothing is different. The only difference is that this project on the side and it is much larger. And at this time, I would like to thank the HFC members themselves for supporting the project, the President, Mr. De La Garza, Vice President, Ms. Scott, and of course, Councilman Young, who serve on the HFC board. So thank you very much for supporting the project. So in terms of the location, a little close to you, again, the development will be on the south side of Oak Street. It is next to Dudley Elementary School. And this is Diane. So again, 324 units, 600 parking spaces. Will be 12 three-story, 1 to 4 bedroom units. We'll have numerous amenities to include business center, 24/7, fitness center, swimming pool, working closet, the like. You can read it on the screen, washer and dryer cup. So all modern amenities will be in this project. This is renderings of what the development will look like. You'll have a resort-style pool, granite countertops in the kitchen, a business center, playground for the children. Also will provide ESL training to the adults, and so potentially health screening for the residents. In terms of bedrooms and monthly rent, so the development will have 12 one-bedroom, one-bath units, and this is the monthly rent. It will be from $312 a month to $813 a month. 132 two-bedroom, two baths, and the rent is $379 a month to $1,023, and so on and so forth. So this development is targeted mainly for families. That's why you have the 1 to 4 bedrooms. Now the development is targeting those who are earning up to 70% of Victoria's median family income. Again, that's equivalent to $52,000 per year for a family of 4. So this is income-based. You must work in order to rent a unit in this development. The development will remain affordable for at least 30 years. Now you would ask, who could benefit from this development? One, of course, government employees, especially our first responders. We know today that many of our police officers, firemen, they have to live outside of the city because they can't find affordable housing, especially in the larger cities. So we think our young firefighters, police officers, school teachers, healthcare workers could be eligible to live in this development, as well as private sector employees, manufacturing workers, office workers, grocery clerks, mechanics. So again, this is targeted for the workforce. We want to make sure that we have available units for our workers. So that's the main goal, essentially, of the HFC, the Housing Finance Corporation. So this is the estimated timeline for the development. So today we are requesting we're presenting the resolution of no objection. This is September 7. So the next step is that the NRP group will submit their application to the state. So they need the resolution in order to apply to the state. So they will submit their application to the state for bond reservation. They should hear from the state early spring, probably March, April. And then they will break ground summer 2022. It will take about 16 to 18 months to build. So break ground summer 2022, they will begin leasing 2023 and complete construction spring 2024. So staff is recommending approval of this resolution because, again, this project will implement our 2035 comprehensive plan. As you know, the comp plan calls for construction of more affordable workforce housing, and the comp plan was something that received a lot of public participation. So this project will help us implement it. And also, it will be a catalyst for revitalizing the South Side. We have been talking about this for quite a long time, that we need to revitalize the South Side, and we think this project could be a transformational project. It will be the project, hopefully, if all goes well, that will help with revitalizing the South Side. It will also promote economic development. One, it will create 400 construction jobs, because again, you have 324 units. So we'll have a lot of construction jobs, and the developer is looking to hire local contractors. It will help attract new employers, companies to Victoria. And finally, it will help existing businesses grow because we would have available, affordable housing for their workforce. So the developer is here to answer any questions that you may have. Again, the developer is the NRP Group. Master Whipple is the vice president. And once again, I just want to thank HFC President De La Garza for leading the Housing Finance Corporation and board members for their support of this important project on the South Side.
Mac, do you want to say anything?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Thank you for your time this afternoon. I just want to thank both the council and also City Manager Garza, Assistant City Manager at the end for their time. We've been working with them for about close to 2 years and trying to make this development a reality. Looking at different areas across the city, that may be a possibility. I think we've gotten to the point where we have a proposal we think would be very beneficial for the city. We feel the same, but happy to answer any questions you may have about the proposal at this time.
I have a question. We're talking about Enchanted Gardens and now the department. Several people that are on Social Security or retired have asked if they were going to be allowed to make applications. Okay.
Yes, so we accept all forms of payment, so whether it's in the form of housing voucher, Social Security payment, those all count towards your eligible income. Residents are required to make approximately 2.5 times the rent in monthly income in order to be eligible to rent a unit, though.
Okay.
And just to further clarify, the project doesn't have any requirements or minimum age restrictions or anything to that effect.
Do you have a name for it?
For now, the name is Odom Street Apartments, but as we get a
Very original, yeah.
creative, but,
Man, I could come up with that one.
we typically have a working development name, but as we get closer to the closing, we'll collaborate with council on a name that, benefits the community and is supported by everyone.
Well, thank you for considering Victoria, and look forward to continued work with you.
Absolutely, thank you. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thanks, Mike. And not only, A, thank you, but B, just emphasize that this is still contingent upon the reservation that NRP expects to receive completely in March. So this is still just a proposal, something that's in the works. And obviously, we're all very optimistic that the reservation will come to fruition, but it's important that we clarify that.
Very good point. Thank you. All right, no further questions for them. Then we'll open public hearing on item C4. Any motion to speak about C4, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and entertain any motions.
So moved.
Second.
So a motion to approve and a second. Is there any further discussion? Thank you all on the Housing Finance Corporation Board. Appreciate your service there. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consent agenda less item C8.
Item D1 is the adoption of the minutes of the August 17th, 2021 regular meeting. Item D2 is an ordinance amending Chapter 14 of the City Code to eliminate game room permits. Item D3 is a resolution approving a variance to Section 21-82A, 1 and 2 and 6 for a property located at 1307 Julia Street in order to allow the property owner to plat the property into a single-family residential lot with a total lot size of 4,454 square feet and a 45-foot lot width, with both being below the minimum requirements, also allowing for an approximate 3-foot encroachment into the rear yard setback. Item D4 is a resolution approving the landscape maintenance agreement for the Green Ribbon Project. Item D5 is a resolution approving an interlocal agreement with the Texas Division of Emergency Management for use of the City of Victoria's public safety radio system. Item D6 is a resolution approving a change order in the amount of $11,256.05 to the MCCI contract converting microfilm to electronic format for the total contract amount of $62,855. Item D7 is a resolution approving a budget amendment to the Victoria Sales Tax Development Corporation's FY 2020-2021 expenditure budget for VSTC municipally owned improvement project at Fire Station 1. And item D9 is a resolution approving sale of city property located at 6103 Dairy Road for $160,000.
Need a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Got a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. And a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. All right, item D8.
Item D8 is a resolution approving the FY 2021-2022 Victoria Sales Tax Development Corporation budget.
Got a motion and a second, and we can discuss it.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Ms. Solis?
Yes, I have a question on the scale of fund balance position. Line item, entrepreneur program was not the original presentation that you gave us for the $100,000. So I know you corrected.
Yes, ma'am. Are you talking about the variance?
Yes, variance.
Correct, yeah. The formula's missing from the column, but we went and added, and all it did change the total expenditures variance to be 1.3 million from 1.4 million as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, any other questions on item D8? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item E1. Ms. Gilbert.
Mayor, item E1 is the appointment of members to the Tourism Advisory Board.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Council need to appoint 2 members to the Tourism Advisory Board, one representing the attractions industry and one representing the lodging industry. Both vacancies are due to resignations. We only have one applicant for the attraction industry. Ms. Elizabeth Tice is the Executive Director of the Children's Discovery Museum and has applied for appointment. If there are no objections, council can move forward with placing her name in the resolution for the attractions appointment.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And there are 2 applicants for the lodging industry representative. We have Brenda Guajardo and Melissa Robinson. They have submitted applications for appointment, and both are currently employed at hotels here in Victoria. Ballots were placed on, please write names on the ballot because council cannot vote by secret ballot. Ballots will be available for review in my office. The name of the applicant is listed on the ballot. Please choose one person that you would like to appoint to the Tourism Advisory Board, and then Angela will collect those, will tally votes. If there does happen to be a tie, council will be asked to vote between the 2 applicants with the most initial votes.
Hopefully there wasn't a tie.
We got a problem if we
I think we fixed that.
I mean, I know Councilmember Crocker is.
I don't know.
That's true.
Just a moment of tally.
Happy to answer any question anybody might have about in the meantime.
That list on the website, because I look right now, I don't know that I could find it.
The list
Of members.
Well, I'm certain off the top of my head, but we can make sure that,
Okay.
absolutely.
Put it up here while we're talking. So the voted unanimously to put Brenda Pardo on the tourism board. So her name will be introduced resolution representing the lodging and accommodations position on board.
Thank you, everybody that did apply. Appreciate that. And if you didn't get it this time, try again, please. Everybody that seems to submit these days is extremely qualified, and we appreciate all that. All right, item E3.
Wait, don't we vote on that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we should probably do that.
I'd like to move, I'd like to move that we adopt that resolution with names filled in of Ms. Tyson, Ms. Guajardo.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Thank you, Ms. Scott.
just wanted to-
Still new to this. I try to move it along fast. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item E3.
Item E3 is an ordinance approving and adopting the budget for the fiscal year beginning on October 1st, 2021 in a total amount of $171,254,369.
I'm just
So
saying on
you're
that.
up there fresh, right?
Absolutely.
Great.
Already done public hearing, we're ready for, I move we adopt the budget as presented.
Thank you. A motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion about it?
Mayor, on item 3, 4, and 5, I will be an abstention on those. Obviously, a lot of work went into those that I wasn't a part of, and certainly familiarized myself with it, but hadn't had a chance to really get into it. I appreciate all the work that was done by staff and by council, but I am going to be an abstention on items 3, 4, and 5.
All right. Appreciate that. So with, I'll call the vote on item E3.
It just means there can be a timeout. Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. None. So
It was close.
6 pass. Item E4, ratify property tax.
Is that,
Item E4 is the ratification of the property tax rate.
I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of point.
Hold on, is that for E4
said
or
3, 4.
E5?
E5, I'm sorry.
E4 is just the ratification of the property tax.
Yes.
Correct.
I so move.
Second. I can't second, but I'm so used to doing that sitting next to you. Anybody else like to second?
was the
Thank
yellow
you.
paper the motion or?
Oh,
No, this is
no,
for
this
the
is just a move to
E5.
ratify the property tax.
Ah,
All right, all those in favor say aye.
aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, 6 ayes. Item E5.
Item E5 is an ordinance setting the tax rate for the 2021 tax year at the total rate of .5882 per $100 property valuation.
I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of .5882, which is effectively a 4.07% increase in the tax rate.
I second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on it? All right, all those in favor of E5, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Carry 6-0 also. And on to E6.
Item E6 is a resolution allocating funds to outside agencies for 2021-2022 for the hotel occupancy tax funds.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for your time this evening. I have a short presentation prepared for you on the 2022 hotel occupancy tax awards process. The hot fund process here, see before you a timeline of the process in July. We advertised the program and had an open application submission period. In July, we had held 4 applicant workshops and then closed the application period on July 30th. In early August, CVB staff reviews the applications and prepares the calculations for recommendations based on the solely objective data provided by applicants. In early August, there is a hot funds subcommittee of our Tourism Advisory Board meets to approve recommendations to City Council. Early September, tonight, the City Council to consider resolution awarding funds to outside agencies. Then early October, funding agreements become effective as we will work with legal to craft those agreements with each individual awardee. Some background information, there was $135,000 in total available funding this year, which was consistent with previous years. Accommodates available fund balance and inspected revenues, and it was approved by City Council at the August 3rd, 2021 meeting. This year, we did receive 17 applications, which is pretty consistent with previous years. All applicants were recommended for some level of funding. We received a total of $295,466 in funding requests and an average award size of $7,941. Just a little information on the scoring process this year. We looked solely at objective data from applicants. We had a percentage of available funding that was evenly split among applicants hitting 4 markers, which included workshop attendance, document compliance, so that meant including their application, budget, financial statements, and hotel documentation. Credibility and transparency, which referred to providing a professional budget, having the numbers of that budget match what they had in their application. And then prior use of funds, if they were awarded hot funds in the previous year, if they did utilize those hot funds. Now, there were exceptions made for event cancellations due to COVID-19. And then we had another percentage of available funding allocated based on submitted hotel room nights from the previous 3 fiscal years. And we also included the fiscal year 2021-2022 projected room nights as part of those calculations for newer events or events that may have not had hotel room nights for the past few years. Looking at the recommendations, this is just a list of what is in the resolution. And you see the level of funding we're recommending for each applicant. We do have a star by Quilt Guild, Greater Victoria. You can see that is the maximum level of funding that was requested by the applicant. An appeal process, applicants were notified of the recommended award on August 23rd. Applicants were given an opportunity to submit appeal to the recommendation of the subcommittee, and appeals were due no later than 12 p.m. on August 26, 2021, and we received 1 appeal from the Memorial Weekend Bash, which was included in your packet. Some changes to the contract this year. Again, the previous reimbursement method was to pay in quarterly installments based on the current hot funds that we were collecting that year. A new method would be to utilize funds from the Motel Tax Reserve Fund to pay them a single installment. So that is also especially beneficial to sporting events, events that just occur over a few days, and then they submit their expenses to us. And they don't have operations stretched out over an entire year, which we do have some applicants, especially in the arts, who apply in that method. The recommended allegation, 135,000, 17 total awards, 17 total applications, and we would update the contracts and we did update the contracts to allow for a new approach to awardee reimbursement. And at this time, I can answer any questions you might have.
Joel, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it that this year was a time limit for them to apply was shorter than it normally is? 'Cause I thought we always started in June.
No, ma'am. Last year, the applications ended in late July as well. We did hold additional workshops this year as well. Typically, we had about workshops. We did 4 workshops held in person and Zoom. So the time frame was 3 weeks to turn in an application and was consistent with previous years.
To me, like it'd been like really fast. I know this. Okay.
Can you say who makes up the hot funds committee?
Yes, so it was made of members of our tourism advisory board who did not apply for hot funds, so there would be no conflict of interest there. So those members included Raj Pal of the Inn, James Weirden of the Inn on Main, Ashley McGee of Flowco, Rosanna of the Victoria Mall, Chris McDowell of Aerocrafters, and Sarah Vela Farms was absent or unable to make our meeting to discuss the funds recommendations. So it was those members of our tourism advisory board who did apply for hot funds. And so in any year, that would typically include your lodging members. So any of our new applicants tonight who were approved would be in that process for next year as well, if we had this approach.
One question on you said that there were 4 markers that you look at, and one of them was prior use. What specifically are your parameters that you're looking for on prior use?
Prior use is we wanted to see, because our system on that is when you have an applicant and they're awarded funds, that is taking away funds that someone else might be able to get, that's spread among group. So we want them to, when they apply for hot funds and to receive hot funds, we want to encourage them to have their event. Now, we understand that if it's COVID cancellations, an exception completely made, and we did that this year's process as well. But we want to we're counting that to that in the prior years, if you had hot funds that you did have your event, you did submit a post-event report and submit your expenses reimbursement.
Is there a mechanism in contract in terms of it use those funds, that there's some type of hook on it, or is it just allocated? At
this time, the funds, if they are if they don't have their event and they're not awarded their fund, it goes back to the fund. That's currently how the money is used. That's what happens to them.
All right, if there's no other questions from Mr. Novosad, we'll entertain a motion on E6.
Actually, I got one more.
Okay.
So let's say next year, what happens if there are more members of the hotel tourism board that are actively involved in seeking monetary things for this? Is there, I mean, obviously there are a few hoteliers that cannot.
Right.
But it seems like your list of subcommittee could get smaller and smaller and
And that
smaller.
could be something to consider,
And it
yes.
is, and just looking at a potential problem.
Right.
In the future.
Right. A couple of our subcommittee members of sectors that we would anticipate not to apply for hot funds: retail locations, food and nightlife, retail shopping, food and beverage establishments, who would probably not apply for hot funds. But that is a fair point and something to consider. We at least would have the lodging, of course, who would not be applying.
Who knew nightlife was at the forefront of Joel's mind? I do want to add a couple of comments, if I may, just really briefly. So the Tourism Advisory Committee was created in 2019. it formerly did not exist to that level of formality beforehand. And so it's important to understand the drastic differences of those involved now versus before. Previously, there was a process you left out of the legal department under Thomas. And there was a group of folks who on an ad hoc basis, not a formal basis, on an ad hoc basis would get together once a year and have a conversation about how to allocate these funds. These would be individuals that, that'd be literally the only time during the calendar year that they'd be asked to talk about something that's tourism in nature. Now, with the Tourism Advisory Board that meets on a quarterly basis, you have a group of folks in a public setting, may I add, because it's a group where the agenda gets posted publicly. So it's more transparent, it's more accessible. Get together 4 times a year to talk about different issues and topics that might be going on related to tourism, with the intent that when the time comes for them to have a conversation about this process, this subcommittee, which that meeting is all posted publicly, so it's open to the public and more accessible and transparent as it ever was before, can make a more educated decision on the recommendation to you, because these are individuals that have been talking about tourism-related matters year-round, and not just an ad hoc group gets together one time a year. So we feel that those changes that we made in terms of that group yield a better product. Is it perfect? No. And we're open to any suggestions that council might have to further strengthen the intent of the board and subcommittee.
So does the board get involved in decision for the subcommittee for the funds? Because you're talking about 2 different sets of people, right? A board and a
Yeah.
subcommittee. So they come together when they make the decisions, or it's the subcommittee that decides?
So the subcommittee is the one that supports the recommendation that comes to council to do what Joe mentioned, which is eliminate the perception of conflict of interest of having the full members or the additional members that are on the board, vote for something that befits the organization or an event that they're involved with. So that's the way that it's done now. We can find, different ways to do it. I know that historically, let's not forget too that this process has evolved in many ways, right? Because it's very, the term I think used was objective, right? So it's a very black and white process in terms of how scoring matrix develops. And you may recall that that's how Thomas Baer had that process. And that direction came straight from council. 2 years ago, we started a process to go more towards incorporating more of a subjective approach to it as well. And then council reminded us that no, we need to stay to an objective process and focus on just the data and the numbers. And so that's the process that we came back to. So that's why the process is what it is. If at any point council wishes that the process is not as objective as it is in its criteria, then communicate that to us. We'll happily list the process to reflect any other components.
I still didn't get my answer. Do you use the board and subcommittee to decide, or is it just the subcommittee that decides?
So the subcommittee members are members of our board. The regular members of our board, the ones that don't apply for hot funds.
It's just a subcommittee. So it goes from staff to subcommittee to city council. That's it.
Because we do have some members of Tourism Advisory Board who do represent organizations that are applying for hot funds.
And if they don't own it, they would have to abstain.
Right.
So it doesn't.
Okay, normally you always give us the actual amount people apply for, and I didn't see it this time. And I think that's a very important component of, what we see. Because if people come up and complain, we don't know what they're complaining about, because all we see is your figures. So I think it's very important that we get both sides.
We could provide that to you.
Please.
Yes.
Please don't forget, always forget, send us that information. I don't care if we already voted on it, it's important we have all that documentation.
Right. If it makes council feel more comfortable, obviously have the discussion to delay the action. If you want more information before making a firm decision, that's obviously their discussion as council.
I have a comment on a procedure, and I know that there's a drive to make things data-driven and make things objective and make things predictable. But I don't know what the percentage of available funding that was evenly split, and I'm hoping it's a small amount so that what I'm going to say is really kind of irrelevant. But I just feel like somebody could comply with those 4 things. I'll show up at the workshops, and I can give you good paperwork and make sure my budget matches. And if I'm a new person applying, I guess I can't meet the prior use of funds. But if I've held this one time before, I can meet all that. So I'm going to get some money, even if my project is not at all one that we want to encourage, or one that's not as recipient worthy as some of the others. And so again, while I see the drive for data-driven objective, I just kind of question some of those categories.
Yeah, and just briefly add that even though, yes, we list several, it's important to note that the single most important factor that impacts the ultimate recommendation is hotel rights. Some of these other elements are more of checkbox. Okay, you got those, great.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the differentiating factor in the formula goes back to those room nights. And as you heard earlier today, some events have better success at gathering that data than others.
What makes it so difficult for somebody to gather data when everybody should have the same access? I don't care what event it is.
And we would be happy, and I've discussed this with More Weekend Bash to help them to track that. I know that they do like ticket sales. That's a great opportunity for them to capture data, how many people are staying in hotel rooms. You're talking about success capturing data. It is just intrinsically easier for like a sport event to capture data, because when that person comes up and registers, signs in, checks in at the tournament, they can say how many rooms or what hotel are you staying at, how many room nights are you staying for the event, and all those sporting participants can get that data and the event can capture right there. Whereas when you have a leisure event, you're trying to capture just crowd that's coming to your event, and it can be more difficult for those events to do that. I think events like More Weekend Bash with their ticket, they have a ticket system. I think that's an opportunity there for them to capture data. I know some of the arts.
That's what I'm talking about. I mean, why is it easier for one event to have, if, like you said, capture it at the entrance, they could capture it then. Why, do they have to go and confirm that with the hotels?
I don't think it's our role to speculate what exactly the different organizers are doing in terms of collecting data. Ultimately, it's a responsibility of the event organizer to collect data. We're happy to support in any way we can, but ultimately the role that we currently play is simply facilitate the process that then comes before you. If council has expectation that staff work more, intimately with all of the events, then we would have to, have a conversation about what that would look like. But again, currently our role in this process is simply to facilitate the data collected and take that objective approach the council has guided us on taking.
I would think that the Tourism Advisory Board would be a good source to have an agenda item where they could discuss perhaps how the hotels could help and could facilitate this. I know every time I check into a hotel nowadays, they smile and say, "What brings you to town today?" And they're keeping data for various things. So it just occurs to me that perhaps the advisory board could look at that topic and see if there were suggestions that they have that they could share with the coordinators and so forth. Because I agree with Mr. Garza. I don't think it's the role of council or the hot funds distribution to come up with procedures that some organizations seem more successful with.
And as I alluded to earlier, if council wants to change the objective approach we take on that specific item, we can do that. But the direction up to this point has been very straightforward from council to focus on that one element in making this recommendation to.
Yes.
Like the objective approach, I think our first year on council, Dr. Young and Ms. Alicia, we had at least 2 years of it when it was just subjective and everybody came up here and spoke about their organization, what they're asking for. And when you're in the community, you get hammered on it. And going with the objective route is, to me, more fair. It allows for more organizations to participate in the program and stand on level ground. So I like sticking with the objective side of it.
Well, we've come a long way, because I can remember nights. So, yeah, but it's just that to make it more of an even playing field. Because I'm sure somebody that's new would be having the same problem, and until they would get familiarized with the process.
Joel, how do other municipalities, this isn't unique to us, I can't imagine collecting data from hoteliers and people that come to certain events. Have you talked to any of your colleagues about what goes on and how they collect data and what do they find most successful, best practices?
It's definitely been something that's been brought up for different conferences I've been to, lunch capture, especially data from the leisure events. I think when looking at the process that we have, the new process we have can be quite happy to post to some of the various peer groups that we have on social media throughout Texas Association of Convention Visitors Bureaus. I've used that for several projects up to this point. I think that would be a good thing to, as we go along developing the methods to some of our applicant data, that'd be a resource.
I think it'd be excellent. Thank you.
If I may add to that, just for experience, my experience in San Antonio, I get that we can compare ourselves in terms of resources. But most communities, or a lot of the communities that collect occupancy tax, don't have a process because they're not collecting a significant amount of money, right? We collect anywhere from $1.7 to $1.9 million, which is significant. There's a couple of structural differences between our stakeholder groups and other communities. The biggest one is related to hotels. Communities that are of our size or larger have local chapters of hotel lodging associations that helps ensure that the hoteliers are organized on the same page and have a process and mechanism to distribute information, communication, the whole works. Communities that don't have that level of structure in terms of that cohesion amongst hoteliers, absolutely everything becomes more challenging because there is a mechanism for consistency across the board. It's possible, but it just necessitates some work on staff part because you have to individually kind of go around and get hotels to support something or follow the process or whatever the case may be. So in this particular case, if we think one of the challenges is the information from the hotels, it can be very difficult because we might have a couple of hotels that are 100% on board, especially the ones that are on the advisory board, right, and the hotel that they're with. The other hotels, it might be as easy. And so that's a structural difference in our community compared to others that we noticed from day one, is that lack of having a formalized local hotel lodging association is tricky. Other thing to keep in mind as well is that as is with any hotel occupancy tax expense, there's a spectrum of intent versus I guess a data-driven approach. And at that point, that's a policy decision, right? If we want to make investments utilizing our hotel occupancy tax dollars that are centered around intent, aren't as data-driven, or having an approach like we have, which is data-driven. And those are policy decisions, because there is nothing, yes, language in the state law that necessitates you got to put heads in beds and things like that, but there isn't any language that talks about, consequences or anything to that effect. So it's what we want to make it. And so I'll just leave it at that.
And just to clarify, right now, the tracking that data is 100% left to whoever's putting on the event. Is that correct?
The date for their specific event, yes.
Okay.
And by the way, our hoteliers are great partners of ours. I don't comment about having the lodging association implying that it's not, but it does make it more challenging when we're going through formalized processes that they themselves aren't as organized collectively as a group as they are in other communities.
Love to entertain a motion at this point.
I got 10 minutes more though. I'm just kidding.
So moved.
Second. All right, motion and a second. Is there any further discussion you'd like to have? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. That closed the action items for council. We're on to city manager report. Buckle up.
Man, it's a crowd.
Mr. Mayor, that's still shorter than most of our previous hot discussions.
You can put 10 minutes on the clock if you want, James. All right, so I wanted to provide a brief update on just the EDA grant opportunities that stem from the American Rescue Plan Act. These are conversations that we've been part of behind the scenes for several months, and more front and center with groups like Self-Tax Development Corporation and recently with many of our community partners. And so I felt the timing was appropriate to loop you into the setting in terms of what the program is and where we are with it. So really briefly, EDA mission is to be involved with all aspects of economic development and help promote competitiveness. They help do initiatives that help create jobs. Pretty straightforward. The thing to note here on this slide is that for our specific location, the regional office that provides services to us is based out of Austin, and that Austin office actually serves 5 states. So it's not just Texas. That's just the way that the EDA decided to split things up. And so that'll kind of put things into perspective when I talk about how much money the Austin regional office received, because that's not just the state of Texas, it's 5 states. Obviously, Texas is the biggest one and the most important one out of that group, if you ask me. But so really quickly for context. So as you know, we formalized our grant administration operation just last year. And Katie Connolly, who of course had been with us for several years, we promoted to be our grants administrator. You recently approved some funds to add 2 grant specialists. So she actually has interviews for that position this week. So we're focused on building the team. One of the core objectives of creating this office was to centralize our grant administration services, because prior to that, all the different departments were left to kind of do it on their own. So the Parks Department had one person that was assigned, that grant, et cetera, et cetera. From the financial standpoint, finance had always been historically involved with that, but that's more, of course, on just the financial documentation part of it, maybe not so much on other elements. So that's been a huge help. Of course, we wanted to take advantage of low-hanging fruit, and some of those we've discussed. We bring them before you, whether they're public safety-related grants or the duck pond that we received the Texas Parks and Wildlife grant. There's, of course, the beautification project in the Loop that's also with TxDOT that Katie was involved with. So we're trending in the right direction with what the intent of that grant management office was set out to be. In parallel to that, there are also some expectations of that office coming from the Sales Tax Development Corporation, because the Sales Tax Development Corporation financially helps pay for that office and financially help pay for that grant administrator position. So from day one, there was also an element or an expectation that this person in the city provide a service to Sales Tax Development Corporation. And of course, from the Sales Tax Development Corporation standpoint, they have a very specific focus centered around economic development efforts, quality of life initiatives, and more specifically, recently, an interest in ensuring that we seek EDA grant opportunities. Because a year ago, after the first CARES Act came out, that also came with funding that went to EDA, and we were not in a position to be able to smoothly and quickly apply for grant dollars through that process. You may recall that the Port of Victoria applied for a grant through that process. They received it. Victoria College has applied for EDA funding, and they've received that for some force training. But again, we unfortunately were not positioned to pull that trigger quickly. So we're trying to be better at that, and we've been trying to plan since then to be better at that. There's an expectation that this grant function be a resource to our community partners, not to do their work for them, but to be a resource, meaning help educate them on the opportunities, maybe just facilitate collaboration, just resource action, right? Maybe there's an entity that's an idea doesn't have grant writers. Okay, maybe there's some capacity with Victoria College or UHV to be able to help with some of that technical assistance. General Plan Commission also serves in the same function, but of course their geographic area is much larger than Victoria. And so the idea is that we pick up of the work the Regional Planning Commission already does in terms of technical assistance, some of that, but focus more on just Victoria too. Victoria has some competitive projects that these EDA grant opportunities. Recently, September 24th, we held a meeting, which we're referring to community partner meeting. What? Oh, sorry, August 24th, yes. In the future. I'm surprised nobody caught that earlier, by the way. It's all right. In any case, we had representation from all of these different organizations, and so as you can see, it was a pretty diverse, large group, and it was actually a really good meeting. We went over what the different EDA grant opportunities are, talked a little bit about some of the projects that everybody's working on. Robert Pichet, who is our point of contact with the EDA out of the Austin office, came in and joined the meeting at the end via Zoom just to be a resource and share some information as well. And so some of the information we provided the group was a little bit about some of the programs. Now, historically, just like anything else, EDA learns from previous processes, and so they divided all the money that they're getting into these categories, 6 different categories. Some of them, as you can see, are not applicable to us, and so I won't even spend any time talking about them. But I will spend some time talking about the one to do and sharing with you a little bit of the projects that we're considering applying for and the timelines associated with that. So the first one is the Economic Adjustment Assistance Grant. This is probably the biggest one and most applicable to us. Because as you can see on the left, I've put in bold public works and infrastructure, and obviously at the end of the day, as the city, that's a big part of what we do. Really quickly though, this specific category received $500 million, but the Austin Regional Office, which is what the ARO stands for, only received shy of $64 million for this category. And recall that that's for a 5-state area. The grant cap amount is $5 million, and they expect the average award to be $2 to $2.5 million. And so when you only have $64 million to work with over 5 states, you know, it can get pretty competitive, right? This specific deadline is March 15th, but because it's competitive, they review applications on a rolling basis, and they've actually recommended to us that if we want to be competitive, we need to get something in this fall. Because if we really wait till next year, they probably are going to be running out of money. And so we really need a run and gun in trying to get some of these projects going. One of the other things too that Katie has learned in her involvement with all the webinars and just talking to Robert is that is an 80-20 split, but you're actually competitive in more money in. So for example, that project that received funding last year, we went 50-50 in match. And so time the ESC is willing to put in more than 80%.
More than 20%.
I'm sorry, more than 20%, yes. Just make sure you're more than 20%, they look at that favorably. And so we're kind of approaching looking at it maybe more of a 70-25, just hopefully get us some points once we get to it. Some of the projects that we are considering submitting for this are the following. One is a citywide LED project. This is a project that staff has already spent a significant amount of time looking into because it's in the CIP. So you may recall that in fiscal year 22, there's $250,000 in it, and there's $250,000 for the next 5 years. So in total, that's a $1.25 million project. And there's a couple things that we could probably incorporate in addition to just replacing the existing lights, like adding new lights in places that don't have lights, that could probably bump that project up to be, $1.5 to $1.75 million project. And obviously, even though it's in the CIP, if it's a project that's awarded, well, it just creates capacity in the CIP because that's $250,000 that we wouldn't have to spend on this anymore. But if we're talking about finding projects that we can turn around quickly and submit for a grant, this would be a project that we could do that. Some other projects that are of interest to the South Sacs Development Corporation, and quite frankly, the city as well, are some infrastructure improvements related to the I-69 corridor. And so recently, the South Sacs Development Corporation approved some pre-engineering contracts with Urban Engineering to look at a couple of pre-engineering studies. One of them is related to a connection to the airport, and that's what the map is on the right. And so the map on the right, you'll see the circle. That is where currently there is a new overpass that is nearly complete, that literally leads you just to the TxDOT office. And so the thought is looking at potentially building a road to connect to Business 59 and provide more of a direct access point to the airport from future interstate. Because as I've mentioned with some of you, currently, if you're trying to get to the airport, it can be confusing. You kind of have to know where you're going. It's not really easy to just take the exit and take that turn and you're there. And so we think that that could really help the airport out a lot. One of the other conversations that has been going on for a while, of course, too, is the Sales Tax Development Corporation expanding the industrial park and really just expanding the area because some of that area is being taken up slowly but surely. And so there's a thought to look at extending Lone Tree Road, which you see there as phase 2, or it shows phase 3, but it's phase 2. That you see there as phase 3, but it should be phase 2. That would extend Lone Tree Road all the way to the new road, which currently is just being called Hangar Drive, and really just creating better circulation in that area to open up more land for development, create even better circulation between the airport property and even the existing industrial park. That's something that we've talked about as well with Caterpillar and other potential suppliers, and I love the idea of just having more of a direct access or straightforward shot between the airport and the sites. And so that specific pre-engineering study that Urban is doing is prioritizing that what's referred to as Hangar Drive or phase 1. And that's the piece that they expect to be completed in a couple of months to potentially be able to submit a grant if we wanted to by the end of the year, early January, associated with that infrastructure project. The other one they're looking at is utilities from 185 all the way to Telfner. We've talked about it. There's limitations to water and sewer along the US 59 Future I-69 corridor, hence the project with the Texan. There are variances that sometimes come before you as well because projects need to be on septic tank, even though they're right next to a future interstate. And so for us, if we really want to develop that future interstate, we need to have some more legitimate utilities out there. And so Urban, who are the developers and authors of the 2018 Water and Wastewater Master Plan, are obviously the best folks to help us figure this out in a quick manner. And so they're helping us with that. Both of those funded through the Sales Tax Development Corporation. Lastly, we are in the final stages of the broadband study, which, as you know, Cop Finley started a couple of months ago. To be published by the end of this month, and we have a presentation made to at the first meeting in October with the result of that study, and that'll really help us paint the picture of whether there is truly a need or an opportunity to apply for a grant related to broadband or not. And so we'll know that soon. Other possible projects related to infrastructure are related to downtown. I have a few graphics to show you that are kind of a sneak peek of what you see in the Downtown Master Plan presentation that's coming up at the second meeting in September. This map shows the way that the Downtown Master Plan identifies primary corridors versus secondary. The red is the primary corridor, and you can see it's practically Main Street in the areas around Delium Plaza and in sort of that core area between Bridge and Main. Currently, as you know, as you drive into downtown, the infrastructure doesn't really start feeling like you're downtown until you get to commercial, right? That's where utilities go underground. That's where you have brick pavers. That's where you have some trees. And so the idea behind one of the recommendations coming from the Downtown Master Plan is to extend that feel all the way to Rio Grande and really make it clear that you're entering downtown as soon as you turn or go straight into Main from Moody or Rio Grande Street. And we know that in some of these crossing streets between Bridge and Main that are in red, there's some ADA issues and some other things that could really benefit from a sidewalk, if you will, centric infrastructure improvement project. Part of the Downtown Master Plan also talks about gateway signage and just really improving upon the concept of establishing a sense of place, which is a big deal. And so one of the big entry gateway opportunities is, of course, on that end, which we're referring to the North Gateway entrance, and that's the area as you approach 700 Main. And if you can visualize what that would look like if you had really nice signage that said, welcome to downtown Victoria, if you could visualize what it looked like with those utilities not present, if you could visualize just what that would look like, it would look really nice. And if you're having a hard time visualizing what that would look like, here's another sneak peek master plan that shows you what that could look like if we did extend that brick paver look all the way to Moody, Rio Grande, had the gateway signage on the north side, had the trees, and really just enhance the infrastructure coming to downtown. So that's one of the downtown infrastructure projects that we're definitely eyeing for a quick submittal for an ED infrastructure grant. Civil Corps is the civil engineering company associated with Master Plan, so we're working with them on finalizing scope, cost estimates, and so that sort that they're already doing as part of the scope of the Downtown Master Plan, and they're just going to help us fine-tune it to prepare a format that we can utilize for submit the ED grant. And they're,
I know it looks like Main Street has been paved by the time this comes to fruition.
yes.
And repainted.
Yes. So in the scope of that grant would be the repaving of the street as well, because you obviously have to met with everything. And you'll see more renderings like this next time we talk about the downtown master plan. Okay, that's the biggest one in terms of having a lot of projects to consider, because again, that's the element that hits personally the most, because it's the infrastructure one. But really quickly, I'll run through a few others. So there's also a category for the travel, tourism, and outdoor recreation. Same concept in terms of improving upon our competitiveness by playing sooner, putting more into the project as is the minimum requirement. This one, what's interesting is that it's 16.6 million, the Austin regional office, 5 states. So again, very competitive. So not a lot of money, but it's there. And so for this specific category, we potentially take a project or two from the Parks Master Plan, which will be presented to you at the September 24th workshop. So we would be in a timeline to be able to get some good information from that for an October submittal for a parks-related project. We know that we've also had conversations about a visitor center, which is an eligible expense for this category. So that's why Explore Victoria. In speaking with Robert Pesce, we understand that potentially submitting a grant for even the golf course can be competitive because of its connection with sports tourism or recreation and outdoor activities, and hitting on all the elements that the grant or this category is intended to hit. This could potentially also help create some capacity or not take up capacity in the future, because in the CIP, there had been an inclusion of greens renovations, which totaled almost $1 million. And so there is a potential that if we do put together a grant application for improvements at the golf course, we can obviously, add a few more elements to it to make it maybe a $1.5 million grant or something to that effect. But that's an opportunity that we're exploring now. The regional airport, because of course its connection to travel, is looking to apply for a new hangar. That's something that Lenny has already taken to County Commissioners Court. They've already approved on a potential match. And he's specifically working with the Regional Planning Commission for the technical assistance to help apply for that grant opportunity. And then we've also discovered that there could be an opportunity to collaborate with the Texas Zoo to potentially also put in for improvements at the zoo. As you know, we have an ownership stake in the zoo because of owning the land and some of the structures. And so there's the opportunity for us to collaborate with the zoo if we wanted to pursue that opportunity. I had a really good meeting with the zoo leadership this morning, actually. I stormed through some of that. I mentioned when I presented on the rescue plan funds that the zoo had submitted requests for improvements at the zoo, totaling almost $5 million. So we can potentially work with them on some of those improvements. But these are all just ideas, but I wanted to share with you what you might potentially see coming in the near future. Next two categories are really more on our regional partners and our educational institutions. So this is more of an FYI, but the Build Back Better Regional Challenge is intended to take projects that are related and aligned, but as part of a holistic vision in a community or a region. And so, for example, the description there is that this is 3 to 8 distinct but related projects. And so these could be things like broadband, because obviously there could be other broadband grant opportunities in other communities in our region, and tying them all together could potentially be something that we submit in this regard. But obviously the Regional Planning Commission would be the ones to take the lead on looking at it more from the regional perspective. And so they're kind of more of the lead folks as it relates, to this category. The Jobs Challenge, this is of course a lot having to do with workforce development. And so as you can imagine, Workforce Solutions, UHV, Victoria College would be the primary entities that would apply for this category of funding. And we do know, based off of the meeting that we had last month, that they're looking at applying for some programs from this category. This specific category, it's important to note that this one has a hard deadline of January 26th. And so these entities do have some time to better prepare an application. So really good opportunities stemming from this category. And as I mentioned, these are the entities that are kind of more at the forefront of those categories. So where we are is finalizing some of the projects because we will need to have conversations with you, council, to obviously A, sign off on the project, and B, help us fine tune how we would plan to secure the match dollars associated with these grants, because it's important to kind of figure that out ahead of time. And so we do plan on hopefully finalizing some of that soon. As you can see on the right, there are a few projects that we feel confident we could submit in the September, October timeframe, such as the downtown infrastructure project that I mentioned, the LED project, maybe even a parks project or two. Some of the other ones would necessitate a little bit more time because of the work that urban engineering is doing on those I-69 related projects. And then we still need to have a conversation about, fine tuning the direction that we're going to take on the visitor center. And that's a conversation we plan on having with you briefly in executive session. Happy to answer anybody, Matt.
Thank you.
And a smile from Mr. Lofgren.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, and thank you, Ms. Connolly, too. I know you've been working pretty hard on this. All right. If
thank
no other further questions, we're adjourned to executive session.
Recessed.
Recessed.
Thank you.
Yes.